They say the mountains have ears, and some nights, if you listen closely, they whisper secrets that have lingered longer than any human memory. It begins with a narrow path carved into the side of jagged cliffs, where travelers often hear footsteps that don't belong to them, and shadows seem to bend in ways that defy logic. Legends speak of the sleeping peaks, a range so ancient that the clouds themselves seem to hesitate when brushing against their jagged summits. The first traveler who dared cross the eastern ridge told of a mist that swallowed entire valleys, leaving him with nothing but the sensation of being watched. He claimed that he saw figures moving just beyond the fog, tall, indistinct shapes that vanished when approached, yet the feeling of their presence never left him. Others whispered that the mountains held memories, not of humans, but of the earth itself. The rocks remember the footsteps of creatures long gone, the echoes of storms that reshaped the valleys, and the laughter of winds that have never settled. A curious scholar once spent a month among the peaks, hoping to map every hidden trail and secret glade. On the 10th day, he noticed that no matter which direction he walked, the landmarks seemed to rearrange themselves. A tree he passed in the morning would appear miles away by dusk. A boulder he had clambered over vanished, replaced by a stream he was certain did not exist the day before. By the end of his stay, he refused to speak of the peaks, claiming the mountains had imprinted visions in his mind. Visions of impossible cities carved into cliffs, suspended bridges of roots and stone, and light that bent around corners as if reality itself were fluid. The locals, however, were not surprised. They had long told tales of the peak's guardians, spirits neither cruel nor kind, who tested travelers by twisting perception, leading the unprepared into endless loops of cliffs and ravines. It was said that only those who traveled with pure curiosity, unclouded by greed or fear, could find the hidden sanctuaries where the mountain's true wonders revealed themselves. One such sanctuary lay atop the highest summit, where a crystal lake reflected not the sky, but the hidden layers of time itself. Travelers who gazed into its waters swore they saw the world as it had been centuries ago, and yet, strangely, the lake also hinted at events yet to come. A painter who spent hours sketching its surface claimed that the lake had shown him visions of storms that had not yet arrived, of birds that had not yet flown, and of a quiet village, unknown to maps, appearing in a valley that was barren in the waking world. Those who ventured deeper into the peaks often encountered strange flora, plants that seemed to respond to thought. Flowers would turn towards the curious, luminescent moss would pulse in time with a heartbeat, and vines would part as if offering guidance. Many spoke of a whispering wind that carried hints, subtle directions, and riddles, always leading travelers towards something they could not yet comprehend. But there were dangers, too, not of violence, but of obsession. A young cartographer, enchanted by the mountain's illusions, became unable to leave, forever sketching, tracing, and mapping the same rocks that shifted positions, unable to distinguish the map from the land itself. His journal, later found by other hikers, was filled with diagrams that twisted into impossible geometry, a testament to the peak's ability to bend perception. The peaks held another secret, one known only to the few who had reached the summit under the silver light of a full moon. At that hour, the boundaries between night and day thinned, and the stones themselves seemed to breathe. Travelers described a hum, faint but insistent, vibrating through the soles of their boots, through their bones, and into their minds. It was said to be a song older than the first settlers of the valleys, a melody of growth, decay, and rebirth, telling the story of mountains that had witnessed the birth of rivers and the migration of stars. In the heart of one hidden canyon, far from common trails, lies a grove of ancient pines that twist toward the sky like fingers of green fire. Beneath these pines, the ground glows faintly, as though the soil remembers sunlight from a time before humans walked the earth. Travelers report that in this grove, one can hear echoes of conversations not spoken aloud, whispers of past wanderers, and the laughter of children who played on cliffs now eroded into oblivion. There, time does not follow a straight line. A minute can stretch into hours, a night can fold into a single breath. And sometimes, when the wind is right, the trees themselves seem to murmur warnings, gently guiding or dissuading travelers from paths that will never lead anywhere. The stories of the peaks have been passed down in hushed tones by shepherds, loggers, and wandering monks, all agreeing that the mountains are alive in ways most cannot understand. They speak of mirrors in stone, pools reflecting visions of both the past and the future. They speak of hidden grottos where the air shimmers with unseen colors and where a traveler's reflection may answer questions before the questions are even asked. Some claim to have seen gates, carved from living rock, that open only when a traveler's mind is free of worldly desire, revealing vistas so vast they seem to extend beyond the edge of reality itself. And yet, the greatest mystery is the mountain's silence. For every scream lost to a storm, for every laugh carried away by the wind, the peaks absorb it all, folding every human memory into their ancient structure. Those who have lingered too long often return changed, or do not return at all. The local tale tells of one wanderer who vanished while following a trail of glowing stones, and a year later, someone swore they saw his shadow moving along a ridge where no living being could stand. Every generation, someone is drawn by the peaks, compelled to explore the twisting ravines and floating clouds. Some seek knowledge, some seek beauty, some seek themselves. And every time, the mountains demand patience, curiosity, and humility. Those who learn the peak's subtle rhythms are rewarded with visions and insights that defy conventional understanding, while those who force their will upon the mountains find only confusion and endless wandering. The first step onto the ancient paths is easy. The hardest part is letting the mountains teach at their own pace, without expectation. And so, if you ever find yourself standing before the sleeping peaks, feeling the mist curl around your ankles, and hearing the faint hum of wind through the crags, remember, the mountains are listening, and the mountains remember. Every footfall you leave behind is another thread woven into the fabric of their eternal story. One false step, one impatient glance, and the peaks may guide you to a place you never intended to go, revealing secrets meant only for those willing to see without touching, to hear without speaking, to understand without needing to hold. They are older than any legend, more patient than any sage, and infinitely more mysterious than any traveler can imagine. By the time travelers reach the middle ridges, the air grows thinner, colder, yet charged with a peculiar energy that prickles the skin and whispers across the hair. It is here, amid the sharp spires and sudden drops, that the peak's true personality emerges, not merely as stones and snow, but as a living entity with moods, curiosities, and an almost mischievous intelligence. Those who have dared venture here speak of corridors of rock that curve impossibly, leading from one cliff to another as though the mountains themselves were reshaping the world beneath the clouds. Some mornings, the sun rises only to reveal valleys that did not exist the night before, entire forests sprouting overnight in impossible geometric patterns, each tree angled toward some unseen source of light. Travelers who attempt to map these formations find their instruments failing mysteriously. Compasses spin wildly, watches stop, and photographs capture nothing but shadows, mist, and the faint glimmer of shapes that vanish when examined closely. One experienced mountaineer recounted encountering a lake perched between two cliffs, a lake so still that the reflection appeared to extend into infinity. At first glance, it seemed ordinary, yet when he leaned over to touch the water, he saw not his reflection but the face of someone he had never met, whispering a name he had never known. He stumbled backward, convinced he had glimpsed some other reality. The locals, when asked about such phenomena, would only smile knowingly and shake their heads, speaking in riddles about the turning places, spots where the world folds upon itself. They warned that curiosity could be both a guide and a trap. Some wanderers, enamored by the peak's illusions, were lured into endless loops of cliffs and ravines, never again to find the trail back to familiar ground. In these upper reaches, travelers also encounter the wind. Not the ordinary wind that shakes branches or whistles through rocks, but a subtle, sentient breath that carries fragments of memory, songs, and warnings. The wind often murmurs directions, urging hikers toward hidden groves, secret ledges, and glowing moss that marks safe passage. But misinterpret it, and it can send the unwary spiraling toward sheer drops or traps of snow and fog. Alongside these warnings, the wind sometimes carries laughter, echoing the voices of long-departed wanderers who vanished into the peaks centuries before. One poet, wandering alone, claimed he could recite the wind's whispers as verses, each line revealing a secret of the mountains, a hidden cove, or a vision of the stars as seen from impossible vantage points atop cliffs that touch the sky. Yet even he admitted he never fully understood what he heard, only that the mountains had chosen to share fragments of their eternal story. Among the ridges, there exist caves unlike any ordinary rock formation. They are carved with patterns that seem alive, shifting under the gaze of the observer. Travelers speak of walls that ripple faintly, as if the stone is breathing, and of shadows that detach themselves to guide or mislead. Inside one cavern, explorers discovered a subterranean river, black as ink, flowing with a soundless current. To drink from it is forbidden in the tales. Those who did were said to see visions of events yet to occur, sometimes joyous, sometimes terrifying, always incomprehensible. One young woman, daring and reckless, followed the sound of the river deep into the cave. She emerged days later at the edge of a ridge, changed. Her eyes reflected the river's blackness, and she spoke only in riddles, hinting at the future of valleys and villages she had never seen. Among the most remarkable features of the peaks are the sky groves, high-altitude forests of twisted pine and birch, clinging to ledges so steep that the earth beneath seems almost imaginary. In these groves, sunlight filters in colors unseen elsewhere, casting shadows in hues that defy description. Travelers describe flowers that glow faintly at twilight, rocks that hum when touched, and trails that seem to vanish into thin air, only to reappear elsewhere. The sky groves are home to creatures both familiar and fantastical. Birds with feathers like molten metal, small fox-like beings that vanish when approached, and insects that leave trails of light as they fly. All are shy, observing travelers with a kind of curiosity that mirrors the mountains themselves. It is said that the peak's inhabitants, seen or unseen, judge the hearts of wanderers. Those driven by selfishness or impatience often find their paths twisted into confusion, while those motivated by genuine wonder and respect are guided subtly toward hidden sanctuaries, secret lakes, and summits that reveal vistas no human map can capture. Some of the most enduring legends tell of the silent choir, a phenomenon occurring only in the deepest canyons and under the light of certain moons. At first, travelers hear faint hums or whispers, as if the mountains themselves are singing. Hours later, the sound swells into a chorus, not of voices, but of vibrations resonating through stone and soil, leaving even the most skeptical visitors in awe. It is said that the choir conveys knowledge older than any written language, melodies that encode the history of the peaks, and perhaps even the memory of the Earth's first breath. One scholar, obsessed with recording the silent choir, returned with manuscripts filled with musical notation that appeared impossible to play, yet beautiful beyond comprehension. When asked what the mountains had revealed, he only smiled, eyes distant, and said, "The mountains speak. I hear them, but only partially, like glimpsing a reflection in water. You see part, yet all remains hidden." Travelers often find themselves on turning cliffs, points where the landscape seems to rotate or shift depending on perspective. A ridge that seems safe when approached from the east may appear as an impassable chasm from the west. Streams may flow upward, boulders may roll silently against gravity, and paths can appear only when unobserved, vanishing when attention is drawn. Many have speculated that the peaks exist partially in a reality slightly different from the one surrounding them, a place where time and space are malleable and where perception is both guide and obstacle. And yet, amid all this mystique, the mountains are not cruel. They do not punish, they instruct. Every twist of the path, every mist-laden canyon, every whispering grove is a lesson in patience, perception, and humility. Those who return from the middle ridges often describe a profound sense of awe, a sensation of having glimpsed something eternal, yet knowing it cannot be fully captured in words, sketches, or memory. The peaks leave traces in the minds of wanderers, shaping thoughts, inspiring art, and altering the way one perceives the natural world. It is said that a single night in the peaks can make a person notice subtleties of light, sound, and movement that were previously invisible, granting a deeper connection to the world far beyond the mountains themselves. And as the sun dips behind jagged spires, casting long shadows into hidden valleys, travelers feel it, a quiet, insistent pull, a beckoning toward heights yet unseen, mysteries yet unsolved, and the endless, winding stories written into every stone, stream, and gust of wind in the ancient, eternal peaks. As night falls over the peaks, a peculiar silence descends, one that is heavier than absence yet alive with expectation. The air grows cool and dense, carrying scents that no traveler can name. Faint earthiness mixed with the crisp tang of snow, and an indefinable sweetness that seems to pull at memory rather than the senses. It is during these hours that the mountain's most enigmatic phenomena emerge. Travelers report seeing paths lined with stones that glow faintly under moonlight, guiding them toward places no map records. Some call these the luminous trails, and many believe they are alive, rearranging themselves according to the intentions of those who walk upon them. Those who attempt to force their way along the trails without respect often find themselves wandering in endless loops, cliffs repeating endlessly, rivers flowing backward, and fog rising from the valleys like a living veil. But those who walk with openness, curiosity, and humility sometimes reach hidden sanctuaries, groves, or plateaus where the peak's secrets are revealed in ways impossible to fully describe. On one such plateau, the sky opens in a way that feels unnatural yet perfectly fitting. Stars hang close, mirrored in pools of water, so still they appear to float above the rocks. Travelers have described seeing constellations unknown to any earthly atlas, stars moving in synchronized patterns as if performing a ritual older than time itself. Here, the air vibrates with the faintest of songs, a melody too subtle to hear with ears alone, felt instead in the chest, the bones, and the mind. Some claim it is the mountains singing, or perhaps the echoes of ages past carried into the present, a harmonic resonance connecting all life that has ever touched these peaks. Beyond the plateau lie the veiled valleys, regions shrouded in mist so thick they seem almost tangible, and yet navigable if one trusts the intuition that the peaks inspire. Travelers who enter often find themselves in landscapes that shift constantly. Trees appear where none were, boulders rise from the ground with slow, deliberate movement, and rivers trace impossible patterns, vanishing into the air before returning somewhere unseen. Within these valleys are whispers of past wanderers, echoes of voices long gone. Some travelers report hearing their own name called softly from the mist, not as a threat, but as a guide. They describe shadows moving along edges and over rocks, appearing almost human, yet impossibly elongated or distorted, and these shadows sometimes lead the way to hidden springs, luminous flowers, or crystal grottos. One legend speaks of the Mirror Gorge, a chasm so deep that the walls themselves seem to shimmer with reflections of alternate realities. Travelers who peer over the edge describe seeing not only themselves, but countless versions of their journey. Choices they made differently, paths not taken, moments that diverged into infinite possibilities. Those who dared to step onto the gorge's narrow ledges spoke of a sensation of weightlessness, of being suspended between worlds, and of hearing a faint laughter, neither male nor female, that urged patience and careful thought. It is said that the peak's most profound lesson lies in the balance between observation and action. Every traveler is tested, not through danger, but through perception and intention. The mountains reward those who notice subtle signs, a glimmering stone, a sound of wind through a fissure, a pattern in the clouds, and lead them to revelations beyond ordinary understanding. Conversely, impatience, arrogance, or distraction results in endless wandering, trails that fold back on themselves, and visions that confuse rather than guide. Deep in one hidden canyon, under the light of a silver moon, lies the sanctuary of echoes. It is a grove of immense trees, their barks silvered, their leaves whispering in harmonic resonance with the wind. Here, travelers report being able to converse with the mountains themselves, not through words, but through feelings, images, and intuition. Some describe flashes of ancient memories, the migration of wildlife, the shaping of valleys by long-forgotten rivers, and the silent passage of time as stones slowly grew into mountains. Others perceive possibilities yet to unfold, events and places that have not yet existed, glimpses of civilizations and skies unfamiliar. The sanctuary is said to be protected by the peak's most subtle guardians, shadows of travelers past, wind spirits, and sentient stones. None are hostile. All are silent observers, permitting entry only to those whose hearts are open. Within the sanctuary, time behaves strangely. Travelers who enter may experience hours in the waking world while perceiving days, months, or even years in the visions granted by the mountains. A poet who stayed here for what he perceived as 3 nights returned to find only a single hour had passed. Yet the experience transformed him. He spoke of understanding the flow of rivers, the growth of trees, and the interconnectedness of life in ways impossible to convey with ordinary language. And yet, even in the sanctuary, mysteries remain unsolved. Pools of water mirror skies from worlds unseen. Trees hum in tones beyond hearing, and shadows move with agency. Travelers report glimpsing figures that appear human but radiate an aura of ancient wisdom, sometimes guiding, sometimes merely observing, never obstructing. As dawn approaches, the mists retreat, revealing vistas of unimaginable beauty, ridges stretching endlessly, valleys cloaked in emerald, and peaks that seem to pierce the heavens themselves. Travelers who have spent nights within the peaks describe a sensation of reverence and smallness, a humbling awareness that they are part of something far greater than themselves. And yet, the mountains do not give themselves fully. They reveal only fragments, each discovery leading to another question, another hidden grove, another whisper in the wind. It is said that the peak's ultimate secret is not a treasure, nor a single revelation, but a perspective, a realization that the world is alive in ways ordinary perception cannot capture, that time is fluid, and that observation itself is a form of communion. Some travelers claim that, at certain moments, the mountains allow glimpses of the threads connecting all things, rivers to clouds, stones to stars, humans to the passage of eons. And in those moments, the peaks are not merely mountains. They are the memory of the earth, the pulse of the wind, and the silent, eternal witness to every step taken within their domain. As the morning sun gilds the jagged ridges and the mists vanish, those who have lingered the longest depart, carrying the mountain's whispers in their minds. Their steps back into valleys below are cautious, reverent, and filled with awe. The peaks have taught patience, humility, and wonder, but they remain enigmatic, their full nature forever beyond reach. And so, the mountains wait, as they always have, for the next traveler to arrive, to listen, to walk, and perhaps, if worthy, to catch a fleeting glimpse of truths older than memory itself. As the traveler reaches the highest summits, where the clouds curl like restless spirits around jagged stone, the mountains reveal their final, most profound truths. Here, the air is thin, almost electric, carrying whispers that have traveled through centuries, voices folded into the rock and wind. One must stand in silence, listening not with ears but with the mind, the heart, and the soles of one's feet. For this is where the peaks judge, not with cruelty, but with the quiet expectation of the eternal. It is said that at the apex, a traveler may witness the veil of eternity, a phenomenon in which the sky and earth seem to merge into a single, shimmering expanse, where stars flow like rivers and clouds form shapes that speak in the language of thought. Here, the mountains offer visions not of the self alone, but of the interconnectedness of all things, the rise and fall of rivers, the migration of beasts, the slow drift of stones across millennia, and the subtle pulse of life in forms invisible to ordinary sight. Some have described seeing entire civilizations built and forgotten in the folds of valleys, glimpses of lives that might have been, and choices yet to be made. One wanderer, overwhelmed by the spectacle, fell to his knees and wept, not in fear, but in awe, for the mountain's beauty and wisdom were beyond comprehension. The wind, here, is no longer a whisper but a guide, brushing against the skin with gentle insistence, leading eyes to pools of crystalline water that mirror both sky and heart. To look into these pools is to understand that time is not linear, that moments repeat, fold, and echo across eternity, and that every step upon these peaks leaves a subtle mark, remembered forever by the mountains themselves. Yet, the peaks demand more than observation. They require surrender to mystery. Those who resist, who demand comprehension or control, are led away by shifting paths, finding themselves back where they started or on cliffs that vanish beneath mist. Only those who accept uncertainty, who walk with curiosity and respect, receive the mountain's final gift, a vision of the world in balance, where life flows like rivers into valleys of understanding, and where each choice resonates far beyond the self. Legends tell of one traveler who lingered at the summit until the first light of dawn. He watched as the mountains exhaled mist that carried memories of all who had passed before, whispers of laughter, sorrow, triumph, and wonder. And then, as the sun touched the highest peak, he saw something extraordinary, a shadowy figure, tall and radiant, standing upon a ledge beyond the clouds. It seemed both part of the mountain and beyond it, a guardian or perhaps the mountain's very essence. The figure inclined its head, acknowledging the traveler's presence, and in that gesture, a silent understanding passed between them, that the peaks are eternal teachers, revealing truths only to those patient enough to listen, perceptive enough to see, and humble enough to know that not all can be known. As the traveler descended, each step felt lighter, each breath clearer, as if the mountains had infused him with a rhythm older than memory. Every glance backward revealed vistas shifting subtly, mist curling differently, rocks catching the sunlight in new patterns, as if the peaks were aware of his departure and blessing it. When he finally reached the valleys below, the world appeared different, quieter, richer, alive with subtle connections previously unnoticed. And though he would walk among forests, rivers, and villages familiar to all, he carried within him the echo of the peak's whispers, the hum of the silent choir, and the reflection of the veil of eternity. He knew that the mountains would always wait, patient, eternal, their secrets hidden yet inviting, a timeless mystery calling to wanderers who dared to dream, to explore, and to listen. And so the legend endures. The peaks are more than mountains. They are memory, song, and story, alive in mist, stone, and wind, ever waiting for those who would walk their paths with reverence, curiosity, and wonder. They hold no treasure in gold or gem, no secret of conquest or power, only the wisdom of patience, the beauty of perception, and the infinite, silent testimony of the earth itself. For those who hear their call, the peaks offer the ultimate gift, the realization that the journey is never truly over, that the mountain's story continues within every traveler who has listened, and that the mysteries of the sleeping peaks are woven into the very fabric of life, eternal, shifting, and impossibly, magnificently alive.